For 26 years, I was the backbone of my family, not just emotionally, but financially. Every birthday gift, every emergency car repair, every college textbook, they all came from my steady income at North Star Insurance, where I had worked my way up from entry-level assistant to regional operations director. My sister Diane's twins? I helped pay for their braces. My brother Mark's mortgage when he lost his job during the recession. I covered 3 months of payments. My parents' 50th anniversary cruise. That was my gift to them. I never complained. Family supports family. That was the mantra I lived by. I wasn't just the provider. I was the organizer. Every Thanksgiving for the past decade had been at my house. I planned the menu, coordinated who brought what dish, and spent 3 days cooking. My maple bourbon turkey was legendary in our family. "Nobody does Thanksgiving like Elena," my mother would say, patting my hand with pride. I took care of everyone, always. Then, North Star merged with Atlas Group. "We're restructuring to eliminate redundancies," said Philip, the consultant they brought in. He had the audacity to wear a blue tie with silver stars to deliver the news that my position was being eliminated. "Your severance package is generous, 6 months' salary, extended health benefits. But we'll need you to transition your duties to the Atlanta team over the next 2 weeks." I was 52 years old and suddenly unemployed after dedicating half my life to a company that discarded me like yesterday's newspaper. I sat in my car in the parking garage for almost an hour after the meeting, staring at the concrete wall in front of me, wondering how this had happened. I had never received anything but exemplary performance reviews. My team had the highest productivity metrics in the company. But none of that mattered in the face of corporate consolidation. I didn't tell my family immediately. I spent those 2 transition weeks updating my resume, reaching out to contacts, and setting up meetings with recruiters. I had savings. I'd always been prudent with money, but the job market for middle-aged insurance executives wasn't exactly booming. Every interview ended the same way. "We'll be in touch." Then silence, or a formulaic rejection email. Bye. The time November arrived, I had been unemployed for 3 months. My savings were dwindling faster than I expected. The severance was substantial, but not endless, especially with property taxes due and winter heating bills approaching. Still, I put on a brave face and started planning Thanksgiving as usual. I ordered the turkey, bought ingredients for my cornbread stuffing, and sent out the family coordination email. That's when my sister Diane called. "About Thanksgiving," she said, hesitation in her voice. "Mom and Dad thought maybe we could do it at their place this year." "Oh," I said, surprised but not alarmed. "That's fine. I can bring the turkey and—" "Actually," she interrupted, "Mark's wife Stephanie is doing the turkey this year. She found some special recipes she wants to try." Something in her tone made my stomach tighten. "I see. Well, I can bring the stuffing and cranberry sauce then. And maybe my pecan pie?" There was a pause, uncomfortable and telling. "The thing is, Elena, Mom thinks maybe you should take a break this year, with everything going on with your job situation and all." "My job situation?" I repeated. I hadn't told them I was fired. I had only mentioned I was between opportunities and exploring options. "Mark told us everything," Diane said. "About how they let you go, how you've been struggling to find something new. Mom's worried you can't really afford to contribute this year, and we don't want you to feel obligated." The humiliation burned hot in my chest. "I can afford to make stuffing, Diane." I know, she said quickly. "But we thought maybe you could use the time to, focus on your job search, or just rest. You've done so much for everyone over the years." I gripped the phone tighter. "So you're uninviting me from Thanksgiving?" "Not uninviting," she protested. "Just maybe this year you could use the break. Come for dessert if you want. We just didn't want you to feel pressured to host or bring anything elaborate when money might be tight." I was speechless. For years I had supported them all, emotionally and financially, and the moment I faced a setback, They were cutting me out. Not directly, not honestly, but in that particularly painful way where exclusion is dressed up as concern. I see, I finally managed. Well, thanks for letting me know. You're not upset, are you? We just thought... It's fine, Diane. I have to go. I have a meeting with a recruiter. A lie, but I needed to end the call before my voice betrayed how deeply her words had cut. 2 days later, my brother Mark called. I let it go to voicemail. He left a message asking me to call him back about Thanksgiving. I didn't. If they had made their decision, I wasn't going to beg for a seat at the table I had set for years. The following Monday, my mother called. I answered, against my better judgment. Elena, honey, about Thanksgiving. I just want to make sure you understood that you're still welcome to come. Just not for the whole day. Maybe join us around 4, after the main meal? After the main meal, I repeated flatly. So I can have some leftover turkey scraps? That's not what I meant, she said, sounding wounded. We just thought, with your financial situation. My financial situation is not as dire as Mark seems to have suggested, I said, cutting her off. I have savings, I have prospects, I'm not destitute. No one said you were destitute, dear. But Mark mentioned that you were really struggling, that you might even have to sell your house. I closed my eyes, feeling a fresh wave of betrayal. I had confided in Mark during a moment of vulnerability, sharing my worst fears, not my reality. And he had not only shared that information without my permission, but seemed to have embellished it significantly. I'm not selling my house, Mom, and I'm perfectly capable of contributing to Thanksgiving dinner. Well, she said, her tone shifting to something less sympathetic. Stephanie is very excited about hosting this year. She's been wanting to show off that fancy new kitchen of theirs, and you know how sensitive she is. She'd be crushed if we changed plans now. Stephanie, my brother's wife of 3 years, who had never once offered to host a family gathering until now. Stephanie, who had benefited from my financial generosity just like everyone else. I understand, I said, even though I didn't. You do what works best for the family. So you'll come at 4? For dessert? I paused, weighing my response. I don't think so, Mom. I've actually decided to take a little trip over Thanksgiving. Weekend. Clear my head. A trip? But where? How can you afford? I have to go, Mom. Someone's at the door. Another lie, but a necessary one. After I hung up, I sat in my silent kitchen, staring at the calendar where I had marked Turkey Day with a little hand-drawn gobbler. The hurt was evolving into something harder, more resolute. I opened my laptop and booked a 3-day stay at a small coastal inn about 4 hours away. It would put a dent in my savings, but the thought of sitting alone at home while my family gathered without me was unbearable. At least by the ocean, I could pretend I had chosen solitude. 2 days before Thanksgiving, my father called. Unlike my mother and siblings, he was direct. Your mother says you're not coming for Thanksgiving, he said when I answered. That's right, Dad. I'm taking a short trip instead. Because you weren't invited to dinner? He pressed. Your mother says you were invited. I was invited for dessert, I clarified, after the main event. There was a silence on the line, and I could picture him frowning, puzzling through this information. That doesn't sound right, he finally said. According to Mom, it was decided that with my financial situation, I shouldn't feel pressured to contribute. Stephanie wanted to host, to show off her new kitchen. I was welcome to come for leftovers, essentially. Another long silence. That's not how it was presented to me, he said at last. I was told you needed a break from hosting because you were depressed about losing your job. A bitter laugh escaped me. I'm not depressed, Dad. I'm angry. I was fired after 26 years of loyal service because of a corporate merger. It wasn't performance-related. It wasn't my fault. And yes, I'm having trouble finding a new position at my age and salary level. That doesn't mean I can't afford to make stuffing or that I need to be excluded from family dinner. You weren't excluded, he insisted, but with less conviction. But if that's how you feel, I'll talk to your mother. Don't bother, I said. I've already made other plans. Enjoy Stephanie's turkey. The day before Thanksgiving, as I was packing for my coastal retreat, my phone lit up with a text from my nephew Justin, Diane's older son. Heard you're not coming tomorrow. Is it true what Mom said about you not being able to afford food right now? We can help if you need it. I stared at the message, a fresh wave of humiliation washing over me. So this was the narrative they had constructed. Poor Aunt Elena, unemployed and destitute, too proud to accept charity, too broke to even attend. A family dinner. I almost threw my phone across the room. Instead, I typed, I'm not coming because I wasn't invited to dinner, only to dessert. And I'm not destitute. I have savings and prospects. I'm taking a trip for a few days to clear my head. But thanks for your concern. Justin's response came quickly. TF. Mom said you turned down the invitation because you were embarrassed about being unemployed. This family, I swear. Then, a minute later. For what it's worth, I think it's messed up. You've done so much for everyone. His message was a small balm to my wounded pride, but not enough to change my plans. I finished packing, set my home security system, and headed for the coast early Thanksgiving morning. The Driftwood Inn was nearly empty, most people being home with their families for the holiday. The elderly owner, Mrs. Callahan, gave me a room with an ocean view and mentioned that while they weren't serving a formal Thanksgiving dinner, she had made a small turkey and all the fixings for the few guests and would be serving it in the dining room at 6. Just casual, she assured me. Come down in your pajamas if you want. We're all strays here today. I spent the morning walking on the nearly deserted beach, the November wind whipping my hair, the sound of the waves drowning out my thoughts. By afternoon, I had reached a sort of peace with my situation. Yes, my family had hurt me deeply. Yes, I was facing an uncertain future, but I was still standing, still breathing, still capable. At 6, I went down to the dining room to find 3 other solo travelers and Mrs. Callahan herself sitting around a large table laden with a modest but appetizing Thanksgiving spread. We introduced ourselves. A divorced dad whose kids were with their mother this year, a young woman whose flight home had been canceled, and an older gentleman who simply said he preferred quiet holidays. No one asked why I was there, and I offered no explanation. Mrs. Callahan said a simple grace, thanking the universe for bringing us together, and we passed dishes family style. The food wasn't gourmet, but it was made with care, and there was something freeing about sharing a meal with strangers who expected nothing from me beyond basic courtesy. We were halfway through the meal when my phone started buzzing in my pocket. I ignored it the first time, but when it immediately rang again, I excused myself to check it, concerned there might be an emergency. 5 missed calls and a dozen text messages, all from family members. The most recent was from my father. Please call immediately. Emergency at Thanksgiving dinner. Stephanie's turkey was raw in the middle. Everyone sick. Need your help. I stepped into the hallway and called my father back. He answered on the first ring. Elena, thank God. Where are you? I'm at the coast, Dad, like I said I would be. What's going on? It's a disaster, he said, and I could hear chaos in the background. Someone retching, someone else crying. Stephanie didn't cook the turkey long enough. It looked done on the outside, but was completely raw in the center. We didn't realize until everyone had already eaten some. People started getting sick about an hour ago. Your mother's violently ill. Mark and Diane, too. The kids seem okay so far. They didn't eat as much. Did you call an ambulance? I interrupted, my anger temporarily suspended by genuine concern. No, I don't think we need that. But everyone's miserable. And there's no food. The whole turkey is ruined. Nothing else got made properly either. Stephanie was handling everything and got overwhelmed. I'm 4 hours away, Dad. What exactly do you expect me to do? There was a pause. I don't know, he admitted. We always rely on you in a crisis. And this is definitely a crisis. The irony was almost too perfect. excluded from dinner, but expected to solve the dinner disaster. Part of me wanted to say, "Not my problem," and hang up, but the larger part, the part that had always taken care of my family, couldn't do that. "Have everyone drink small sips of water," I instructed. "If anyone shows signs of serious food poisoning, high fever, blood and vomit or stool, severe abdominal pain that doesn't let up, get them to an ER immediately. Food poisoning from undercooked poultry is no joke." "Okay," he said. "What? About food? The kids are hungry. Nothing's open on Thanksgiving," I sighed. "Check my freezer, bottom drawer. There should be a lasagna and some homemade soup. You can heat those up. There's bread in the bread box if it hasn't gone stale." "You're a lifesaver, Elena." "Dad," I said, my voice tight with suppressed emotion, "I need you to understand something. I wasn't invited to dinner today. I was told I could come for dessert if I wanted, like some kind of charity case, because apparently everyone thinks I'm broke and depressed. That's why I left town. That's why I'm not there to solve this problem in person." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Finally, my father spoke, his voice heavy. "I didn't know. Your mother made it sound like you had declined the invitation, like you were too proud to come because of your job situation." "That's not what happened. I believe you," he said, "and I'm sorry. We should have checked with you directly instead of listening to, instead of making assumptions." It wasn't a full acknowledgement of how deeply they had hurt me, but it was something. "Use the key under the blue flower pot to get in," I instructed. "And Dad? Next time, maybe remember who has always been there for this family before you decide to exclude them." I hung up and returned to the dining table at the inn, where Mrs. Callahan was serving pumpkin pie. "Everything okay, dear?" she asked, noting my expression. "Family drama," I said with a weak smile. "Nothing new on Thanksgiving." The older gentleman across from me chuckled knowingly. "Families," he said, shaking his head. "Can't live with them, can't throw them back." For the first time that day, I laughed genuinely. I had a piece of pie, listened to the divorced dad's story about his disastrous attempt at deep-frying a turkey the previous year, and felt the knot of tension in my chest begin to loosen. Later, back in my room, I found more text messages from family members, from my mother. "I'm so sorry, Elena. I should have insisted you come for the whole day. I misunderstood everything. Please forgive me. From Mark, I never should have said anything about your job situation. That was private. I screwed up. Also, your lasagna saved the day. The kids are calling you a hero. From Diane. We were awful to you. You've always been there for all of us, and the one time you needed support, we blew it. I'm so ashamed." From Stephanie, I should never have tried to take over Thanksgiving. I was trying to impress everyone and failed miserably. I'm sorry for getting between you and your family tradition. And from Justin, next year, we're doing Thanksgiving at your house again, with your turkey, and if anyone suggests otherwise, I'm staging a revolt. Love you, Aunt Elena. I put my phone down and walked to the window, looking out at the moon reflecting on the dark ocean. My family had hurt me deeply, but they were still my family. Flawed, sometimes selfish, but also capable of recognizing their mistakes. Tomorrow, I would respond to their messages. Tomorrow, I would begin the process of forgiveness. But tonight, in this quiet room by the sea, I realized something important. I had spent my life defining myself by what I could provide to others: financial support, emotional stability, solutions to problems. Now, faced with the loss of my job and the temporary withdrawal of my family's approval, I was being forced to redefine myself. To remember that my worth wasn't tied to my employment status or my usefulness to others. I had supported my family for many years. I had been fired through no fault of my own. They had excluded me when they thought I couldn't contribute, and now they needed me again. But the woman who would return home in 3 days wasn't the same woman who had left. This version of me understood her own value more clearly and would insist that others recognize it too. This version of me knew that true family support goes both ways, especially when someone is down. I turned away from the window and got ready for bed, feeling lighter than I had in months. Sometimes it takes a raw turkey and a family emergency to expose the truth of relationships. Sometimes it takes being called a loser to remember that you are anything but. And sometimes the best Thanksgiving lesson is learning that you can walk away, even temporarily, and the world doesn't fall apart. But if it does, they'll still call you to put it back together.